Hey everyone, this is Angela from Bake It With Love, and today we're making a traditional Easter classic, hot cross buns. They are a fruit spiced roll that are usually eaten around Easter time. So we have all of our ingredients gathered here. I have a mixture of cranberries because currants are hard to find here in the US. Actually, I lived in my previous house, I had currants in the yard, but they wouldn't have been dried, would they? So I have a mixture here of currants, some golden raisins, and some dried unsweetened cherries. They've been soaked in about a quarter cup of rum. You can use apple juice instead. And then I covered them with cling film and heated this in 30-second bursts until it was shrunk down to the top of my measuring cup here. So these were warm while I gathered everything and got it all ready. They've been cooling, so they'll be ready to go in. They're going to be the last thing I put in. Everything else here is going to go in. We'll mix it, and then these are last. So we're going to get started. Okay, I've got my yeast here. This is the instant rapid action type yeast. If you have the packets, pretty much one packet will do. And it's about, you want about 2 teaspoons if you're measuring it out. But those packets are, I think, a 2 1/4 teaspoons, so they're okay. I have got brown sugar here. I have got cinnamon and clove. If you watched anything of mine before, you know I like fresh nutmeg, but I have it already grated here. Some baking powder and salt. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fork this so that it's all combined, and then I'll start adding my liquids. And I've got a couple eggs ready here, and a third that I have separated the yolk and the egg white. The egg white is set aside for coating the rolls after we've shaped them. So don't toss it down the trash. We've got 6 tablespoons of butter here. And with all baking, your ingredients like your eggs, your milk, your butter, it's usually preferred that they be at room temperature so that you're baking, you have the best results when you bake. You're putting something in the oven expecting it to get hot and bake up, and that just happens better with ingredients that are already warm. So we've got all of our dry ingredients in the mixing bowl already. We added our butter, milk, and our eggs, the 2 whole eggs and one yolk. I'm going to use our dough hook. You could start off with something else, but I'm going to be using my dough hook. So I just go straight to it. This is going to get loud, so I'm going to turn this on and go ahead and let it do its thing. The only thing we haven't added is the rum-soaked fruit here, and that will go in when this is all combined and we have a nice elastic dough going. Okay, that's only about 2 to 3 minutes that we needed the dough. Let it mix. It took about 1 minute to let it combine. I've still got some dry stuff here, but I know that I've got liquid in my fruit, so I want to get that in here to get it finished. Okay, so go ahead and add your fruit and any liquid that's left over in there. It's been soaked up pretty well by your fruit, but we want all that liquid. Drop your dough hook back down and go ahead and finish kneading for about another minute or 2. Okay, I've got all my fruit nicely combined into my dough. I'm going to go ahead and get my dough hook out of here and cover this up. You can use cling film because of my temperatures here, and we're still March in Minnesota and it's not terrifically warm. I like to get my towels wet with warm water and cover my bowl that way. So I'm going to do that and cover this and let it sit for about an hour, and then we'll check back in on this. So we're back. Our bread has been rising for a little bit over an hour. It doesn't need to double in size, but it should be puffier than what you started out with. So I've got a lightly floured working surface ready here. I've got my 9x13 baking pan. It's lightly greased, not too much. What I'm going to do is turn this out onto my lightly floured working surface, get your hands nice and floury, and divide this into roughly about 12 portions. They should be about 1/3 of a cup size, kind of like tennis ball. So that is what we're going to do next, and I'm going to move the camera around a little bit for you and we'll get started. just going to go ahead and knead our dough for a few minutes before we separate it into our portions. I'm just going to start with separating my dough in half, and I'll repeat that. So once I have my portions divided out, I just kind of round them and pinch towards the bottom. The bottom side is going to go into my ready 9x13 baking pan. And I'm just going to repeat this through the rest of the pieces until I have all of my rolls in my baking pan, and then I'm going to let them rise for about an hour. Okay, my hot cross buns have all been rolled into the balls here, and they are arranged here in my 9x13 pan. There's 4 per row, 12 of them total. I'm going to go ahead and cover them back up with my warm tea towel here, and I will let them rise for an hour before we come back to these to put them in the oven. We will bake these at 375 degrees, so we'll preheat the oven before that hour is up. Okay, our hot cross buns have been rising in the pan here for about an hour. We're going to go ahead and coat these, and we'll get them in the oven. It is preheated to 375 degrees, 190 degrees Celsius, and we will bake these for about 20 minutes. So I have my egg white that I reserved earlier and about a tablespoon of milk. Just going to whisk this together in this little tiny bowl, and then I'll use my brush here and brush the tops of our rolls, and they're ready to bake. Generously brush the top of each of your roll here in the pan. Get in nooks and crannies there. It'll make for nice shiny tops on your rolls. Okay, our rolls are coated and ready to go in the oven. Like I said, 20 minutes and we'll check on them. Hot cross buns are all done. They're out of the oven. You're just looking for a nice golden color on the top. We're going to go ahead and transfer these to a wire cooling rack by popping them out of the pan. It'll come out as one piece. And we'll let them cool, and then we'll be able to make our icing to put the crosses on the top of each of the hot cross buns. Okay, so our hot cross buns are all done and they're cooled down. So we're going to go ahead and make the icing. We want it to be nice and thick and pipeable so that we can do our cross on top of our traditional Easter rolls. So I'm just going to do just a dash of salt in there, about a teaspoon of vanilla. And then I'm going to start with just a drizzle of I'm using heavy cream, because if you want something to be nice and thick and pipeable, it's a lot easier to work with a thick, viscous cream like that than to start with something watery. A little over a tablespoon of the cream. Now, if you don't have piping bags or tips, remember that a simple Ziploc will work. You can put your icing into the Ziploc and cut just a snip off one of the tips, small snip, and squeeze it out and make your crosses on your hot cross buns instead of using a piping bag and tip if you don't want to. Okay, it's very thick, but it'll work perfectly for what I'm doing because it won't spread either. I don't want this to drizzle or do any dripping, so I'm going to get this into a bag and I'll be right back. Okay, you take your icing and just go ahead and spoon it into your icing bag that's prepared here. Okay, we don't need a lot of icing here, and I'm not using a particularly small tip, but it's an open round tip, and I'm going to keep some pressure on my icing to make a nice cross on the top of each of my buns. And just, like I said, apply the pressure across the top of each bun. You can separate them too, which I hadn't done yet, if you want to go down the sides a little bit more. like I said, just keep some pressure on the top of your roll here, your bun. And you'll spread your crosshair quite nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and get these finished up. I just can't tell you, I mean, like I mentioned a lot of times how good the house smells, but the fruit infused in these and the spices and the rum soaked fruit, that is, it just really smells incredible. And for a simple roll, I couldn't ask for anything better. So I hope you do get a chance to try these. They really are wonderful. If you've had hot cross buns before, I think these will be a new favorite. So thanks for watching, as always, and have a wonderful Easter. We'll see you again next time.